All of us kind of collectively decided that we wanted to go and learn a new hold, as the saying goes.
We talked about your grind, and that gave me a little inspiration to to bust out like the relationships that we've had going on through this podcast first year. So
Downtime in the ring.
hi everyone, welcome back to Downtime in the Ring. This week we have a returning guest, somebody who has now gone and lived his own dream, man. This is exciting. The last time that we had this gentleman here, he was with Ad Free Shows, and now he has gone and helped create a new company. We're super excited. Marcus Deangelo is back. What's going on, brother? We're super happy to have you, man.
Hey, Donovan. Hey, Chris. Appreciate you guys bringing me on the show. Looking forward to chatting with you about all the changes going on, man.
Brother, like, it's insane. So you don't really post too much about your private life, and I see that. I try to like everything that you do. So obviously congratulations on
Thank you.
the new child. I saw that. I was super excited for you, brother. And then we even talked about it the last time you were here. And what got my attention, I was like, man, we got to give him a platform to talk about this because his brain's going all over the place, is that you and your brother helped create a new company. Let's talk a little bit about One True Sport.
Absolutely, man. So it's myself, my brother, and another wrestling podcast host who's he worked with Kurt Angle. He's working with Arn Anderson, and he's kind of like one of the top voices in wrestling podcasting. It's Paul Bromwell. All of us kind of collectively decided that we wanted to go and learn a new hold, as the saying goes. Where we were all really thankful for the opportunity that Ad Free Shows provided us with, but we felt like we could do more with our shows and grow them more. And so we thought that one of the steps was going to be to create our own company. We're in a fortunate position where we've all established relationships with a lot of wrestling talents. And so with that being the case, it's like, hey, look, we've got connections, and we've got people who are willing to work with us. So why don't we go ahead and see if we can do this thing? So man, I'll tell you what, a lot of red tape to start your own company and do it the right way, LLC and lawyers and stuff like that. But we got through all of it, and we're here, and we're not only providing people with opportunities to listen to some really cool, interesting content for free on our YouTube page, but then also we're providing people with an opportunity to become members and not just get bonus episodes, not just get to do Q&As, but really get to kind of form personal relationships with the professional wrestlers that we form relationships with. Like Jake has become my buddy. Same thing with Ted DiBiase. Same thing with a lot of these other talents. And now the idea is like, okay, I want other people to see this side of them, like be able to interact with them, be on a first name basis, have opportunities to chit chat and ask questions and all that sort of thing. So that's what we're trying to set up, a community by the fans, for the fans. And that's One True Sport.
It's crazy to see, so I didn't know who exactly was going to port over with you guys. When I knew for a fact it was going to be Jake. Obviously, the way that you talked highly about Jake the first time you were on here, and then even when we've talked privately, man, like that's your guy. So I knew he was coming, but I didn't know who else was going to port over from Ad Free Shows to this new company. And to see the names of Ted, Hacksaw, of, like I said, Jake, RVD, you got Briscoe, you got Magnum TA, which I popped. I was like, what are they building here? I mean, in a way, it's so refreshing to see this.
Man, it's been cool kind of bringing everybody together. And really, we've got the added perspective of what we think listeners want to hear and what fans want. And it's like we're trying to just service the listeners, fans. We want to give you guys the opportunity to get the kind of content that you're looking for. And I mean, yeah, we've got some great stuff for our membership. Included in the membership are Jake, Ted, Kurt Angle, Arn Anderson, Rob Van Dam, and then Greg Gagne and Magnum TA. But on the free side, where you can just go and listen to podcasts for YouTube, yeah, we've got Medusa, and Lance Archer is going to be coming on with us once a month. We've got a bunch of other shows in the works. Tully Blanchard was just on our YouTube channel doing a Q&A. So we've got a lot of cool opportunities in the works so that fans can come over and enjoy some great free stuff and then say, hey, maybe I should become a member over there because some of the really crazy content is going to exist there.
We talked about your grind, and that gave me a little inspiration to, to bust out like the relationships that we've had going on through this podcast first year. So now hearing that, I'm like, man, the grind even got doubled or tripled at this point, dude. And even just talking to you, like, oh yeah, man, my head's on fire. We're going crazy with this first week, let alone, brother. Tell us a little bit about that.
Man, it's you don't do this for a living unless you love it. And the thing with being a podcaster is, especially if you want to make money, sometimes you just got to run lean and mean. And so that's been my strategy all along, even with Jake. I produce it, I create my own graphics, I do YouTube clips, I do all of it. And I'm not stopping with that stuff because I enjoy doing it, and it saves me having to pay somebody to do it for me. And so, I mean, brother, there's a lot of times. Last night, I was up working until 2:30 in the morning. A lot of people are out there enjoying their Friday night and stuff like that. But one of the things that I always think about is Jerry Rice and how what an unstoppable force he was. Where it's like, it doesn't matter. He'd be up at 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, out there running routes because he knew that the other guy wasn't doing it. And that's all of our mentality, me, Dominic, and Paul, where it's like, let's put in the work where other people aren't willing to put in the work, and we think that good things are going to come to us, and that's what we've been doing, man.
See, that's inspiring, brother. I'm happy for you, dude. When I popped so hard, I was like, man, this is kind of what they've wanted. And even though we haven't been able to have your brother yet because he doesn't check his DMs, I'm outing him
Call
on
him
the
out.
pod.
I'll text him right now.
out.
Where's my phone?
Brother, we were supposed to set up like a tag team, like something, me and my brother versus you and yours, but we haven't been able to do that. So
I had no idea that he was big time in you. I can't wait to talk to him about it.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, dude, I'm gonna love it. So going into, One True Sport, was it scary at first, trying to take this jump, or did you guys already know like the fans are gonna follow these guys? We just don't know what the initial launch is gonna look like.
Yeah, I mean, it's always scary because it's like, that's the thing is, I work for myself, and it's a cool way to make a living because it's, I don't answer to anybody. It's me. I make my living on my own. It's also scary though because it's like, hey, but these gimmicks keep coming in the mail every month. They're called bills, and I got to figure out a way how to pay them. And so it's all on me. I got to just figure it out. And so it's always a little bit scary to say, hey, this thing that I've been doing for a while, I'm going to alter it and change it and turn it into something else. It's intimidating, but man, if you don't believe in you, nobody else is going to. And that's kind of just how I've always viewed it, is like, look, if I'm going to get these talents to get behind me and want to work with me, I need to believe in me, and I do.
The cool part is when I have these interactions with a lot of these people, I don't have to go back and re-listen to the episode because you guys give me a lesson that I know. And it's the fact that you took, a chance the first time being with ad-free shows. You were working free for what I think you said 3 months, I believe.
It was close to that.
Yeah, you were working for about 2-3 months for free, just trying to prove yourself. And now, I don't think you could have imagined that you wouldn't even be with ad-free shows anymore because you'd be with One True Sport, which is insane.
It never even a thought in my mind. And yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it the last time we talked. It was never really a thought in my mind to become a podcaster. I was perfectly satisfied just working, being a social media guy and doing that stuff for a living. But man, I was just talking to Dom about this yesterday. The job just morphs and continues to morph.
Yeah.
As I don't know what it's going to look like in a year, 2 years. Hopefully it's growing and getting bigger and better, but because that's what it's been doing. I started out with social media, and it just grew and grew and grew, and now I'm running my own podcast company. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that it continues to just stay on that trajectory. But yeah, man, it's brother, the grind never stops when you work for yourself, and you've just got to be willing to put in the work. And I honestly believe that anybody who gets into podcasting, if you are willing to put in the work, make connections, put yourself out there, stop fearing rejection, good things are going to come to you.
Oh yeah, 100%, brother. So, what do you guys have planned going into the latter half of this year? Because this isn't going to technically be y'all's first year. So what do you guys Are there specials that you guys are wanting to do specifically for the holiday season? What do you guys have planned? If you can give us just a little bit, we don't want to spoil too much.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you this. The other thing that we're doing with One True Sport is not just about podcasting, it's also about providing fans with quality merch. We saw what Roots of Fight was doing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that
Mhm.
brand of clothing. We saw what they were doing with boxers and former athletes and stuff like that. We're like, nobody's doing that for wrestling. And if they are, they're not doing it right. So we took that idea and that concept and we turned it into our own thing. So if you go to onetruesport.com, you can have a look at some of the great merch that we've got there. And there's a lot more in the holster getting ready to be released. And let me tell you, a lot of it's really cool. And we're also going to bring on a guest spotlight once a month where we'll make a connection with somebody who's not even doing a podcast with us, but that we have a relationship with. We'll reach out to them and say, hey, how would you like to have a couple free shirts available for 1 month exclusively here on One True Sport? And then when they're gone, they're gone. So we've got some great ones in the works. I won't give away too much. But as far as content is concerned, it's one of the really cool things about what we're doing is that we form relationships with guys who had rivalries with one another. So, like, I'm not saying it's outside the realm of possibility for me to get Jake and Ricky Steamboat to have a conversation exclusively on One True Sport that fans could come and listen to and hear both sides of the story. How about Magnum TA and Tully Blanchard? We've got Magnum. We've worked with Tully. They had that iconic I Quit match. Yeah, there's so many combinations like that that we're going to be able to bring to people every month. That on top of interactive experiences with some guests that we bring on, bonus episodes. It's like I said, there's a lot of great stuff available right now on our free YouTube channel. But once you get behind the paywall, you're going to see, holy smokes, man, a lot of content you're not going to hear anywhere else.
And I've always enjoyed like shoot interviews with older wrestlers. I forget what his name. He does click this.
Oh, Sean Oliver.
Sean Oliver. When he did his straight shoot interview show, and like getting to hear like little tidbits about from the Iron Sheik or even from Sandman and like others. But I've always been curious as to like, I wonder why Jake would never be on it. And maybe it was just kind of like a thing regarding just like, oh, well, he's breaking the business, yada yada, like, but going in from there. So seeing a platform like this, seeing like you said, Magnum TA, Jake, Ted, Jim Duggan, and all these guys, even prior to working with One True Sport, I binged most of it after watching the first interview with you, Donovan. And man, the stories, there's so much that can be told, and there's just there's not a platform, at least up until now, that could like harbor these. And now I'm so interested because I'm looking down like this whole entire page of Kurt Angle and so many things, and oh man, I'm so excited for this.
Man, we mirror that excitement. We think that that's another element that's going to make us successful. Like I'm seeing on your face that you're pumped up about it. We feel that way. It's not like we're this is just a job now. We're still fans. We love wrestling, and we wanna hear the content. The other thing that we're trying to do is, and Donovan, I may have mentioned this last time you and I spoke, but the other thing that we're trying to do is. Jake has done countless shoot interviews, radio interviews, and every time, what do they talk about? They talk about him and Savage and the Cobra,
Mhm.
and they'll talk about maybe him in the blindfold match. They kind of play the hits every time he does one of these interviews, and that stuff is great, and we're going to talk about it. But like what I've been doing on the podcast is I'll say, hey, Jake, when you were in Mid-Atlantic in 1981, let's talk about that for a minute because you were around some huge personalities, and he's literally never done a single interview about it until I've started doing them with him. So like we're starting to hear stories from Jake that have never been heard before, and that's something that we're committed to across all of the podcasts that we're doing, where we want to hear the stories that nobody gets to hear, that they never get asked about, so they never have an opportunity to share. Jake's daughter, I was on the phone with her at one point. She had called me and she was like, me and my brothers got together and we were talking about that episode that you did, and they were like, we've never heard those stories ever. And this is their father.
Wow.
So like we're creating an archive of stories that are going to exist 40 years down the road now that otherwise would have never been out there. And that's something that we're really strongly committed to at One True Sport.
Follow-up question: whenever you talk with Jake during like your podcast shows, at any point, I haven't watched all of them, but I've watched a couple, does he ever go into Jake Roberts where he's like, a slow, methodical sort of thing? Like at any point during it, does and do you kind of have to catch yourself?
Every once in a while, where like, especially if we're talking about promos or something, and I'm kind of asking him like, okay, what would you do? What kind of headspace would you get into? Every once in a while, you'll kind of see that kind of look in his eye, like Jake. I'm not talking to Aurelian anymore. I'm talking to Jake the Snake. And it's a really cool moment. Cool to watch him do that. And it's just, man, he's such a pro. Ted is such a pro. Everybody that we work with, it's like those guys, they put themselves in that incredible headspace where they can just kind of flip a switch and in and out of character, and it's pretty amazing.
So how did you get Magnum and Greg Gagne? Like how do these other relationships how were they formed is the best way to say it.
It's for me, it always comes back down to Jake. It all started with Jake. I was lucky enough, as I told you before, to meet him in a Starbucks in Dallas. At one point, he and I formed a relationship and a friendship, started working together, and then it's just one thing has led to another. My friendship with Jake led to my podcast with Jake. My podcast with Jake led to my relationship with Ted DiBiase, led to my relationship with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So it just keeps happening and happening, and that's how Magnum and Greg and I kind of got together. I was introduced to a guy who was helping them out with some of their online stuff. And that guy came to me one day and he was like, "Hey, how would you like to do a podcast with these guys?" And at that time, I was still doing some social media for ad-free shows on top of the podcast. And I was so busy. I was like, I love Magnum and I love Greg. I'm just too busy to take this on right now. I was like, however, my brother is just as skilled as I am, if not more skilled. I'd love to put you in touch with him because I know that he could help them and make sure that their podcast is done the right way. Next thing you know, Dominic is doing a podcast with Magnum and Greg called Straight Talk with the Boss.
Oh, okay. See, yeah, like you guys are a great tag team. Just you and your brother. It's crazy how you guys have, you know, made your spot in this niche of wrestling podcasting. Are you guys trying to go and promote at all the conventions that are going to be throughout the year? Like, we have WrestleCon here in a month or two for SummerSlam, and then of course WrestleCade in November. Like, what's the goal there?
We are going to have a presence there, beyond a doubt. And we're still kind of trying to work out the logistics of it. But I do know that we've got a really strong connection with WrestleCade right now. And one of the things that we would like to do is say, like, okay, a lot of our talent are already booked to be there, the people that we work with. So how about we go there and we do some live stage shows? We'll bring some value that way. We'll get our brand out there a little bit that way. And it's a big element when it comes to wrestling is networking. So not only will I have the opportunity to network with more wrestlers being there, and Jake is always awesome and introduces me to anybody, but the other cool thing is networking with fans and just kind of grassroots approach to like, hey, look, here's what we're doing. Here's like a free sticker. And why don't you come over and listen to us, check us out, see if you like us. And if you do, become a member and become like a little part of this community that we're building,
That's awesome, dude. So speaking of bookings, we're going to have to talk about it. So you, sir, have started the career of becoming a wrestler. Let's talk a little bit about that, brother.
Yeah, it's something that just came my way. What was going on was I was starting to really gain some popularity as a podcast host, and people were coming to me and asking me for pictures, autographs. I was actually here at my local Target, and somebody asked to take a picture with me, and that was kind of like the breaking point where I was like, okay, people here are just starting to know me, so like, what can I do? Like, how can I make this bigger, and how can I kind of create more content? And the idea occurred to me. What was really the big inspiration was I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him, but there's this guy. He was a journalist back in like the 60s. He became an actor. His name is George Plimpton. And he wrote a book called Paper Lion. So he was a journalist and he went and played for the Lions during like their training camp or something, and quarterback position. He was a fairly good athlete. And so he came in as a camp quarterback and recorded firsthand experience what he went through and what these players went through. And it was a really fascinating story. It's a great book. So if you've never read it, go out of your way to find Paper Lion. And so that was kind of the inspiration where I'm like, I could do that. Like, I will record what I'm doing. I'll like physically record and write in like a journal, and and just see what these guys go through. You know, I have the luxury of talking to Ted DiBiase and Jake the Snake and Jim Duggan and saying like, hey, this happened to me in the ring. How can I fix it? Or hey, what's the best approach for this? And they give me advice, and I follow it, and it always works. So yeah, it's I'm doing that where it's like, hey, not only am I listening to these guys, I'm actually going to try to put it into practice now.
I respect that so much, brother. I respect that a lot.
I love seeing the clip where you're asking Ted, "Hey, when do you know when to give someone a receipt?" I'm like, I would totally ask Ted DiBiase that. That's just crazy, and just all that knowledge that you're procuring from such a distant age, but a very prominent age in wrestling. Like, and maybe even like, are you taking any of those aspects from those golden ages into your current repertoire now, and hopefully in the future be able to show those off?
Yeah, it's funny. You know, we do a lot of practice matches, and by the way, I got to put over the school. It's IWC here in Pittsburgh, International Wrestling Cartel. Honestly, I could not have asked for better trainers. If you are in the Pittsburgh area, Ohio, West Virginia, wherever, if you're nearby, if you can drive here and you want to become a wrestler, go with these guys. I can tell you that they are on the level, incredible training. And I've been training for 3 months, and they have had such a great focus on me that I'm like essentially getting myself up to speed in the fast lane, and these guys are helping me swim instead of sink. But back to your question, yeah, so I'm definitely taking stuff from these guys. You know, it's we do these practice matches, and it's always like the wrestler thing before the match. You know, your opponent comes to you and they're like, okay, what do you do? What do you like to do? And I always say like, well, I do a lot of what Jake Roberts, Ted DiBiase, Tully Blanchard, and Scott Hall do. Like, if you see them do it in the ring, that's probably something I can do in the ring. And so that's sort of been my jumping off point. Now, as far as taking specific advice, I'll give you one great example. Is whenever I first started taking bumps, I noticed that it was a shockwave through my entire body, and I was like, there's no way that I'm doing this right. Like, I've got to be screwing some. Like, the coach is like, no, your form looks good and everything. So I'm like, okay, but I'm doing something wrong, because there's no way that people's body are taking this abuse every single time they throw themselves down. And so I asked Jake about it, and I was like, hey, so here's what's going on. What do you suggest? He was like, listen, I know it doesn't make any sense. He was like, but what you want to do is throw yourself at the mat harder. And I'm like, really? And he's like, look, you've got to look at it this way. He was like, let's say that one person is running at another person. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear the ice cream truck out there. He says, look at it this way. If one person is running at another person and that person is standing still, they're just going to get plowed over. He says, but if two people are running at each other and plow into each other, he says they kind of offset each other. He's like, when you throw yourself harder, you're trying to offset the mat. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, it doesn't make sense, but Jake Roberts told me to do it, so I'm going to do it. So next time I took a bump, I flung myself as hard as I could, and it didn't hurt. So it's these tiny little nuances that are like, okay, I'm starting to get it, you know?
So you said the International Wrestling Cartel. So I have a couple of notable alum, and maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't. Elias, Ric Flair, Bruno Sammartino, Dusty Rhodes, Britt Baker, and the list will go on and on and on. So you are in a great school, my guy.
Man, these trainers, I got to shout out Potter Pisker, Craig Stevenson, Glenn Spector was there for a while and was able to help me out. It's like, honestly, these guys are such fountains of knowledge, and literally it's like having an old school ring veteran in there with you, because you can ask these guys anything and they have an answer that makes sense for you. They'll never just throw up their hands and be like, "Ooh, I don't know, man. Sorry, I don't know. Just try this." Like, that's never the case. They're like, "Here's what you want to do. Here's how you want to do it." And it's just, man, I couldn't have asked for better. Seriously, it's like getting to talk to a wrestling dictionary every time I go in there.
So what's the plan? What's the goal? Because we've seen people in the last couple of years, Chris Danger probably being a prominent name in wrestling content, going straight into the ring. Sean Rossap actually gearing up. So Simon Miller. So like, what is the goal? Do you just want to go to where you're able to debut? You say, okay, I went through this entire journey I made it. I understand what they've gone through. Or are you trying to also look at a few bookings when you are able to do so?
Yeah, you know what's funny is my original thought was the whole thing, everything I record and do is going to be a build up to my first match, and then I'm going to go out there. We'll make a big thing of it. It'll be kind of like a big celebration. Go out, have a match. Well, I'll do whatever, do a job or something, and then that'll be that. I'll put a pin in that, and that'll be my content. But as I've been doing it, I was just telling my trainers this. I'm like, this is scratching an itch that I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
And I got dude, I love being in the ring. I
Mhm.
love wrestling. I love working. I love figuring out the right way to do the match. And so it's starting to turn into something more where I'm like, okay, I'll take local bookings. And then it's like some people have already reached out to me and said like, hey, when are you available for a booking? And it's like people in, across the eastern shore have started to reach out and say like, hey, we want to book you. And I'm like, okay, maybe this could turn into a thing. Like podcasting is the way I make a living. I've got children. I don't know that I'm ready for life on the road. That being said, I'm not ready to give up wrestling. I think I'm going to keep doing it. And I don't know. We'll just, as of right now, it's kind of a wait and see. Let's see what this thing turns into, and I'll roll with the punches, man.
It's
I
gonna
have
be
to.
funny. It's gonna be funny to hear him. So I was on the road with Jake one time, and it's like you're thinking of the Jake Robert Road stories and all those. It's like, oh.
Yeah. I respect it, dude. I mean, the first time that I took my first bump, I loved it. It felt weird. Even hearing my coach say, "Oh, you like to throw yourself back. That's great. You're going to need to do that." And I didn't understand what he meant until we got to that. Finally learning how to wrestle and how to do spots and all of this. So I'm proud of you, man. That's awesome, my guy. Much
Thank
respect.
you, dude. Thank you. It's man, it's been a big step, and let me say, like, it is not easy on your body. It's really not. And I've been doing everything I can to get myself into good shape. I've been lifting. I've put on muscle. I've lost weight. And I'm putting myself in a spot where it's like, okay, if I'm doing this, I'm gonna train just like I'm trying to get myself to WWE. Like just like these hungry guys that I'm working with who really want to work their way up and get noticed. That's how I'm gonna train. And so, man, it's a lot, but I love the grind.
And especially like in the area that you are, because you're in Pennsylvania, you have Maryland, you have Ohio, we have tons of friends in that area, tons of amazing promotions. It doesn't even mean that you'd have to travel that far to actually get these bookings. It's a great time for you, dude, honestly.
Yeah, it just feels like a cool, unique opportunity. I've really kind of dialed in a character for myself. I'm just Marcus. Everybody's like, "Hey, what's your name?" And I'm like, "Marcus Deangelo, podcaster." And that's sort of the gimmick where it's like I'm gonna go out there and I'm just gonna be like this arrogant podcaster who's like, "Yeah, this stuff is easy. I'll prove it to you." Like that sort of thing where it's like I think that I'm a celebrity and I'm above all this, and then it turns out I'm a chicken shit heel. So
Wow.
that's the game plan.
Dude, this is awesome, man. I've been wanting to have another conversation with you, and I'm glad that the news came by when it did, man. This has been a good one.
Dude, always a pleasure to get to chat with you guys. And yeah, anytime you want me on, I'll wrangle Dom and make sure he can come on too.
Definitely, dude. I have to pick his brain also, especially being with RVD. And it's a whole different aura about you, dude. A whole lot different type of confidence, I'll say that, man. You're still controlling this podcast like the way you did last time. It's cool, man. It's awesome.
I appreciate you, man. And yeah, look, it's seriously, it's I don't. One of the things that Dominic and Paul and I all wanted to emphasize is that this really isn't about us like one true sport. Like it's cool. We are fortunate that we were able to build it, but really we love this. We love wrestling. We love podcasting, and we reflect. We're a reflection of the people that listen to us. We just want to be able to provide you guys with the kind of stuff that you're looking for, and we're hopeful we can do it. And the other nice thing is like, look, we'll take suggestions. Like if we're doing something that fans or listeners don't like, tell us. We'll adjust it. We want to build this thing and make it so fun and fan friendly and such a great way to build a community with like-minded folks that yeah, there's no ego involved here. We just want to have a great time and make sure everybody else does too.
So I asked you the events. You obviously said you'll be at WrestleCade. You're going to have all this presence. What are some of the new shows that you guys are already trying to to have? What
You
are the
mean
new projects?
other shows that we're looking to bring to our
Yeah.
network? Well, I can't give away any of those secrets just yet. Those will have to be announcements, but I can say that there's a couple shows that are already existing that are maybe not living up to their maximum potential, even though that we know that they've got a world of potential, and we're looking to bring them on and help them maximize. And a lot of big names are attached to those shows that just maybe happen to not be getting the kind of traction that they need. We think that we can help. And so that's one of the steps. But look, it's we're wide open, man. If there's some talent out there who we think is going to be a good fit for what we're doing, let's give it a shot. We want to build something that everybody feels like they can be included in. Another example is that we've brought Medusa on, and Medusa has repackaged her podcast, which is called Paving the Way. And again, there's no ego here. We were looking for the best fit for her for a co-host. It just happened to be a guy that we know and work with. We're like, you know what? His personality is going to go perfectly with hers. And it has. They did their first episode, and I was like, I put it on my social. I was like, that's one of the best podcasts I've heard in a while. Like these guys are a great fit. So the point I'm driving toward is we want to provide people with opportunities here too. Other content creators who maybe aren't getting the opportunities that they deserve. We are focused to and committed on not just growing ourselves and our brand and making sure that we line our pockets. That's not what it's about. We want to help other people along and help other people get to the position that we're in as well.
Much respect, dude. Much respect, man. You couldn't have said that any better, my guy.
Thank you.
So
Man.
I don't want to take too much of your time. And obviously we're going to have a part 3, but hopefully with your brother next time.
Hopefully if he'll answer his damn DMs.
So as we begin to wind down, where can everybody find the socials for One True Sport YouTube channel? What's the website to go to? How do we sign up?
Yes. So if you want some awesome shirts, again, go to onetruesport.com. That's where you're going to find these incredible shirts. And right now we've got a special on Arn Anderson's Hall of Fame shirt. Arn is going into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame here next month. And so we have created a shirt specifically for that. It's a limited time offer. So get over there and grab that. You'll see it as soon as you go to the page, onetruesport.com. And then look through our collections. We've got some great classic wrestling shirts, some really cool shirts. Featuring Jake, for example, from stages of his career that never got shirts. I've got a Mid-Atlantic Jake shirt and a shirt of Jake from when he was in Calgary working for the Hearts back in 1979, 45 years ago. So go and check those shirts out. They're really cool style. But then if you want to sign up, you go to onetruesporttv.com. That's going to take you to our YouTube page. And you'll see on the regular YouTube, there's a lot of free content, stuff that we're just giving away so that fans can have it and enjoy it. But where the rubber really meets the road is when you become a member. And we've got 3 tiers of membership. We call it Contender, Workhorse, and then the top tier of membership is Traveling Champion. And we've got them all at a really highly discounted rate, lower than any of our competitors. And you can go and check it out and then go and enjoy some of the incredible content that we have there and are starting to have there. And follow us on Twitter at #1 T Sport. And you can follow us on Instagram at One True Sport TV. And on Facebook, just look up One True Sport. You'll find us there. You'll see our sweet looking logo that my brother designed. And that's where you want to go and follow to keep updated, because this coming week, we've got some big announcements coming out already. And that's something we're hoping to continue, is every single week. Hey, guess what we're doing this week? Something new and cool and interesting. So go and give us a follow, and by all means, go and become a member, because we'd love to interact with you guys more and make sure that you can interact with the talents that we work with.
I have a lot of respect for you guys, and I think the biggest reason why is that you guys are giving these veterans the opportunity to tell these stories that they wouldn't be able to any other way. And my grandfather just turned 88, and I told you the first time that I met you, he's met some of these guys in person, and that's what brought him to be more of a wrestling fan. And so now getting to hear the stories that Jake hasn't said before or Ted hasn't said before, it's a lot. It's awesome, dude. It really is, man.
I take it really seriously, and I recorded with Ted earlier this week, and he's such a nice human being. And afterwards, he always thanks me for putting in the research because he's like, brother, he's like, I know that you put a lot of work into this, and seriously, man, I really appreciate you and all the work that you put in. And I was like, Ted, I was like, I appreciate that, but let me be fully honest, like doing this is a passion project for me because I know that these videos that I'm creating with DiBiase or Jake or whoever, they're going to exist 30, 40 years down the road now. And Ted, in all likelihood, will be gone, or if not, he'll be like 100. But like, I hope he lives that long. I hope he lives to 125. But the idea here is we're archiving his history, not we're not playing the hits. Everybody knows about him kicking the basketball. Everybody knows about him and Andre and the twin referees. We want all of it. We want all of your history so that people can look back and say, like, this is the entirety of Ted DiBiase's career, completely archived right here. And that's what we want to do with everybody.
I respect it, my guy. Chris, do you have any other questions for our guests before we wrap it up?
No, I don't have any.
All right, brother, we will see you again. Hopefully next time in like a tag team style episode where it'll be 4 people.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, you guys heard where to go see One True Sport. We have enjoyed this conversation, my guy. I can't wait to see what you guys announce, and just it's awesome to be able to hit you up anytime and just be able to talk to you, man. You're a great guy, dude. I'm going to ask you a lot of advice for our podcast because we're starting to shoot up, and I think we can reach the ceiling that you guys are at, hopefully one of these days, and you guys can catch us in the next video.